My mother-in-law banned me from her 70th birthday gala at the Pinehurst Country Club, telling me over speakerphone that her circle wouldn't know what to make of someone like me and that the staff entrance might be more my speed. She didn't know I'd been quietly paying her club dues for the last 4 years, along with her oldest daughter's mortgage and her grandson's private school. So I made 3 phone calls, sent 2 emails, and by Saturday night, the staff at Pinehurst were politely escorting her out of her own party. I want to back up, because if you only hear the ending, you'll think I'm cruel. And maybe I am, a little. But I want you to understand what it took to get me there, because I didn't wake up one morning ready to burn anything down. I was the kind of woman who apologized when someone bumped into me at the grocery store. My name is Adair. I'm 31 years old, and on paper, I am the most boring person you have ever met. I drive a 2017 Subaru Outback. I live in a 2-bedroom Craftsman in a quiet neighborhood outside Raleigh, North Carolina. I wear the same 3 pairs of jeans on rotation, and my idea of a good Friday night is a frozen pizza and a documentary about something I'll forget by Monday. I work from home. I have one houseplant that I have, against all odds, kept alive for 6 years. What people in my husband's family didn't seem to understand, and what I never bothered to explain, is that I am also, by any reasonable measure, wealthy. Not generationally wealthy. Not generationally wealthy. Not yacht wealthy, but the kind of quietly comfortable where I haven't checked the price of groceries in a long time. I run a regulatory compliance consultancy for medical device companies. I started it in my apartment when I was 24, and I'm now the person that a handful of very large companies call when the FDA is breathing down their neck. My rate is high. My calendar is full. My name doesn't appear on anything because that's the whole point. When something goes well, the executive who hired me looks like a genius. When something goes wrong, I'm already on my next contract. I tell you this because I want you to know I didn't fall into anything. I built it. I met my husband, Roman, 6 years ago at a hospital conference in Charlotte. He was a sales rep for a small orthopedics company at the time. We got married 3 years later in a small ceremony at a vineyard. His family came. My family is mostly gone. My dad in 2018. My mom 2 years after. My only brother out in Oregon, and not particularly interested in keeping in touch. So when I married Roman, his people became my people. That was the deal in my head. I would love them because I loved him, and because I missed having a family. His mother, Loretta, was a piece of work from the first dinner. She lived in a 4-bedroom colonial in a gated community outside Cary, the kind of place where every mailbox matches and every lawn looks like it was trimmed with cuticle scissors. Her husband, Roman's father, had died of a heart attack back in 2014. He had been a regional VP at a paper products company, and he had left her with the house, a decent life insurance policy, and a pension that, by the time I met her, had mostly run out. She didn't tell anyone that, of course. To hear her talk, she was a woman of means who simply chose to live modestly because she was tasteful, unlike certain people who, flaunt things. Loretta's older daughter, Roman's sister, was named Ren. Ren had 3 kids, a husband who worked in commercial real estate and had been between deals for about as long as I had known him, and a mortgage on a 5-bedroom house in a school district she could not actually afford. Ren had a way of looking at me that I didn't understand for the first 2 years. I thought I was reading too much into it. Now I know exactly what it was. It was the look of a person sizing up whether you're an obstacle or a resource. The first time I paid for something was about 4 months into the marriage. Roman came to me one night, sat on the edge of our bed, and told me his mother was about to lose her club membership. Pinehurst was $22,000 a year, plus assessments, plus what she spent on dining and events, which usually doubled the total. She had been a member for 31 years. His father had been a member before her. It was, Roman said, the only place she felt like herself anymore, and she was about to lose it because the pension had finally given out and she was too proud to tell anyone. "I'll cover it," I said. He looked at me like I had offered to donate a kidney. "Adair, that's a lot of money." "It's not a lot of money," I said. And it wasn't, not for me. I made that much in a slow month. She's your mother. It would devastate her. I can do it, let me do it. He cried a little, which was rare for him. He thanked me. He said his mother could never know, because she would be too ashamed, and I agreed. I set up the wire from one of my business accounts and made sure it routed through a holding name that wouldn't tip anyone off. The next year, I did it again. And the next. By year 4, I was also paying Ren's mortgage, because her husband had stopped contributing months ago, and the bank was calling, and I was paying my nephew Sutton's tuition at Greystone Academy, which ran $28,000 a year and which Loretta had decided was non-negotiable because the right schools matter for boys. I never met that money mentally as gone. I just moved it. I did it for 4 years. 4 years. In that time, here is what I got in return. I got Loretta correcting my posture at Easter dinner. I got Ren asking, in front of her own children, whether I had ever considered doing something about my hair. I got Roman's cousins who showed up for holidays, calling my work Adair's little side thing and asking if I was ever going to get a real job so Roman doesn't have to carry everything. Roman, to his credit, sometimes pushed back. Other times he didn't. He came from them, after all. Their silence was familiar to him. Mine was just polite. In 4 years, no one ever asked what I actually did. No one ever asked how my work was going. Loretta once introduced me at a brunch as Roman's wife. She's home-based, with the computer. A woman at the table said, "Oh, like one of those crafting Etsy things?" And Loretta gave that little hum that meant yes. Basically, let's move on. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself they were grieving the father they'd lost, and I was easier to swallow than the truth, which was that without my money, this whole family would have collapsed about 36 months ago. I told myself the kids were the point. Sutton, who was 9 and obsessed with marine biology and asked me real questions and listened to my answers. The 2 little ones, Ren's daughters, ages 6 and 4, who climbed into my lap when no one was looking. They were the point. I was building them a stable life. That was worth something. That was the story I told myself anyway. The phone call happened on a Tuesday in late September. I was on my couch with the heating pad, recovering from an outpatient procedure I'd had that Monday, a uterine ablation my doctor had recommended after years of issues I won't bore you with. It was minor as surgeries go, but I was sore and groggy and not really at my best. Roman was on a flight back from a conference in Denver. I was alone in the house. My phone buzzed. Loretta. She rarely called me directly. I picked up. Adair. Dear, you're hard to reach. This was untrue. She had texted me twice. I had responded to both within an hour. Listen, sweetheart, I'm finalizing the seating for the gala. Lucinda is here with the chart and we're just running through everything. The gala. Her 70th? She had been talking about it for 9 months. 140 guests at Pinehurst, a string quartet, a custom menu, the works. I had transferred her the deposit money in March. I had also written her a check for the dress, which she had picked out from a boutique in Charleston and which had been altered 3 times. I had not been asked to contribute to the seating. I had not really been asked to do anything for the gala, but I knew I would be there. I was her daughter-in-law. Of course I would be there. Okay, I said. My voice was still hoarse from the anesthesia. What do you need? Well, she said. And there was that pause. That little inhalation I had learned over 4 years to recognize as the precursor to something I was not going to like. Lucinda and I have been talking, and we just feel that given the caliber of guests, you understand, the Mackenzies are coming. The whole board of the foundation will be there. We think it might be better, more comfortable for everyone if you sat this one out. I waited. The heating pad was warm against my abdomen. The room was very quiet. Sat it out, I repeated. Just for this event, sweetheart. It's not a personal thing. It's just that these are not your kind of people. You'd feel out of place. And honestly, with how you've been, the home business thing, the casual look, I don't want you to be uncomfortable. The staff entrance is around the side if you want to swing by and drop off a card or anything. But the gala itself, I think it's better if we keep it tight. I could hear someone laughing softly in the background. Lucinda, Loretta's best friend since 1981. Lucinda had heard all of this. You're uninviting me, I said. Don't be dramatic. I'm protecting you, really. You'd hate it. All that small talk, all those people who, do things. It would be so much pressure on you, and Roman will manage. Roman knows how to work a room. Does Roman know about this? Roman doesn't need to be bothered with seating charts. This is between us girls. I sat there. My hand was shaking, but not in the way you might think. Not from sadness. From something colder. A click had happened somewhere in my chest, a switch flipping, and I was just listening to the new sound of the room. Okay, Loretta, I said. Oh, good. I knew you'd understand. You're such a reasonable girl. That's what I always tell people about you. She's reasonable. We got off the phone. I sat for a long time. Then I got up, very slowly because of the soreness, and I walked to my office and I opened my laptop. I want to be honest about what I felt. It wasn't anger, exactly. Not yet. It was a kind of clarity I hadn't had in years. I had been so committed to being the bigger person, to absorbing every slight, to being useful in a way that I thought made me indispensable, that I had not noticed how thoroughly invisible I had made myself. They didn't think I was reasonable. They thought I was furniture, the kind you put a drink on without thinking. I scrolled through my transfers folder. I keep meticulous records. I have to, for tax purposes, since I'd been classifying some of these payments as gifts and others as loans. There it all was. 4 years of it. The club, the mortgage, the tuition, the 2 times I'd quietly paid Ren's husband's truck payment when it was about to be repossessed, the orthodontist for Sutton, the summer camp for the girls, the roof on Loretta's house in 2022 when a tree came down in a storm, the dental implants for Loretta last winter, the cruise she took with Lucinda for her 69th birthday because, in her words, she deserved one nice thing. I added it up, the actual total. I had a rough number in my head, but I'd never sat down and looked at the real one. It was a hair under $240,000. I sat there with that number for a while. $240,000 in 4 years. To a family that called me the home-based one. To a woman who thought the staff entrance might be more my speed. I poured myself a glass of water. I drank it. Then I started making a list. First, the club. Pinehurst billed her dues annually in 2 installments. The next installment was due October 1. I logged into the bank portal, the one with the auto-pay schedule, and I canceled it. Just like that, I canceled the standing order. Then I drafted an email to the membership office at Pinehurst, the one I'd been corresponding with for 4 years under a holding company name, and I let them know I would no longer be remitting payment on behalf of Loretta's account, effective immediately. I asked them to direct all future billing to the member of record. Second, the mortgage. Ren's bank had my routing number on file as the source of her monthly payment. I canceled the standing order for that too. Her November payment was due in 5 weeks. After that, the bank would start calling. Third, the tuition. Greystone Academy billed quarterly. The next payment, $4,200 for the fall quarter prorated, was due October 15. I called the bursar's office. I had a professional, calm conversation. I let them know I was no longer the payer of record on Sutton's account, that all future invoices should be directed to his parents, that they should remove my contact information from the file entirely. The woman on the phone was very kind. She thanked me for the heads up. Then I made one more phone call, the one I'd been thinking about all afternoon, the one I should probably have made years ago. I called my attorney. Her name is Beatrice. She's been my lawyer since I started the consultancy, and she's also a friend. I told her everything. The 4 years, the $240,000, the texts I had, the bank records, the Venmos that said loan in the memo. She listened without interrupting, the way good lawyers do. When I was done, she said, "Adair, what do you want?" "I want the money back," I said. "All of it. The portions that were explicitly framed as loans, and I want it on paper." "You'll get most of it," she said. "Maybe not all, but you'll get a number that will hurt them." When do you want this delivered? I thought about it. The gala was on Saturday, October 5th. 10 days away. Saturday afternoon, I said. Around 3 to Loretta's house. By courier. Signature required. She laughed, but not in a mean way. In the way you laugh when an old friend finally says the thing you've been waiting to hear. Saturday afternoon, it is, she said. I want to tell you what the next 10 days felt like, because I think this is the part people get wrong about revenge. They think it's hot. They think you wake up every morning grinning. It wasn't like that. It was quiet. It was almost dull. I worked. I cleaned my office. I made soup. I went to a follow-up appointment and got cleared by my surgeon. I told Roman, when he got home from Denver, that I needed to talk to him. I sat him down at our kitchen island. I told him about the phone call from his mother. I watched his face go through several countries. She said what? He said. She said the staff entrance might be more my speed. He put his hands over his face. He stayed like that for a long minute. Adair, I am so sorry. I know you are. I'll call her right now. No, I said. You won't. Because you've called her 100 times over 4 years and it hasn't changed anything. I'm done being defended. I'm done being managed. I'm going to handle this myself, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm doing, because you're my husband and I'm not going to surprise you. But you don't get to fix this for me, not this time. Then I told him what I had done. The cancellations, the phone calls, the attorney, the demand letter that was going to arrive at his mother's front door on Saturday afternoon, 3 hours before her gala. He was very quiet for a long time. Then he said, 240,000. Yes. I knew it was a lot. I didn't know it was that much. I never wanted you to feel it, I said. That was the mistake. I should have made you feel it. I should have made all of you feel it. I should have made all of you feel it. I thought I was being generous. I was being a coward. There's a difference. He nodded slowly. What can I do? Be there on Saturday. Not at the gala, here, with me. I'm not going to that party. I want to be home with you. He said okay. He said okay about 100 times. He said it like a man who had been waiting a long time for someone to draw a line. The next week was uneventful on the surface. Loretta texted me twice, both times to clarify minor logistics for the gala, neither time to acknowledge what she had said on the phone. I responded the way I always had. Politely, briefly, like nothing was wrong. I wanted her to walk into Saturday with no warning at all. On Tuesday, Pinehurst sent her a registered letter informing her that her annual dues were past due and that her membership would be suspended on October 6th if payment was not received in full. She would have gotten that letter on Wednesday. She did not say anything to me about it. On Wednesday, I got a text from Ren. It said, "Hey, weird question. Did you switch banks or something? Mortgage did an auto draft." I didn't respond. I didn't have to. The auto draft hadn't happened yet because the November payment wasn't due until October 30. She was checking. She was getting nervous. Good. On Thursday, the bursar at Greystone called me to confirm that I had indeed removed myself from Sutton's account. I confirmed. She told me very kindly that the school would be reaching out to Sutton's parents about the outstanding balance. I thanked her. On Friday, Loretta texted me, "Sweetheart, I know we had our little talk, but I do hope you'll send a card for Saturday. The girls will be looking for one." I read that text 3 times. The girls. Her granddaughters. The ones I had been buying birthday and Christmas presents for since before they could walk. She was using them as a lever. She still thought I was the same Adair who would fold. I didn't respond. Saturday morning, I woke up early. I made coffee. I sat on my back porch with Roman and watched the leaves do their thing. He held my hand. We didn't talk about it. There was nothing to say. The pieces were where they were. At 3 o'clock, Beatrice's courier arrived at Loretta's house. I know this because Beatrice texted me a confirmation. Signature obtained. Document delivered to Loretta in person on her front step. What I learned later, From Roman. From her cousin who called me the next week to apologize for things she had said years ago. Is that Loretta opened the envelope right there, in her foyer, in her gala dress, with her hair already done. The letter was 12 pages long. It detailed every transfer, every loan, every payment I had made over 4 years. It demanded repayment of $186,000, the portion that could be substantiated as loans based on text messages and memo lines. It included a notice that a lis pendens would be filed against her home if repayment terms were not negotiated within 30 days. She got into her car and drove to Pinehurst anyway. She was Loretta. She was going to her gala. The gala had started at 6, cocktails on the terrace, dinner at 7, dancing at 9. At about 6:40, the assistant manager at Pinehurst approached her at the bar where she was holding a glass of Prosecco and surrounded by her foundation friends. He told her, as quietly and respectfully as he could, that there had been an issue with her account and that he needed to speak with her in his office. She refused. He insisted. She refused again. He told her, still very quietly, that if she did not come with him voluntarily, he would have to ask her to leave the premises. A member, one of the Mackenzies that Loretta had told me weren't my kind of people, stepped in. He thought he was helping. He asked the manager what the problem was. The manager said very calmly that Mrs. Loretta's membership had been suspended for non-payment as of the previous morning, and that the gala had been held this evening only because the contract for the event had been paid in full back in March, but that her own personal access to the club was no longer active. He apologized. He said he had hoped to handle it privately. I am told that Lucinda put her hand over her mouth. I am told that one of the foundation board members took 2 steps back. I am told that Wren, who had arrived with her husband and was on her 3rd glass of champagne, looked across the room at her mother and saw for the first time in her adult life what was actually holding their family up. Loretta was escorted out, not roughly, not dramatically, just escorted by a young man in a blazer through the side door of her own gala. She got into her car. She drove home. She walked into her foyer. The demand letter was still on the side table where she had left it. She called Roman at 11:14 that night. Roman didn't answer. He was holding my hand on the couch and we were watching, of all things, a baking show. When his phone buzzed, he looked at it, looked at me, and put it face down on the coffee table. I want to tell you what happened next, because the comments I imagine you might leave on this story are the same comments I had in my own head for a long time. Don't the kids suffer? Aren't you punishing them for their parents' behavior? Aren't you being too harsh? Here is what happened. Wren and her husband had to sell the house. They moved into a townhouse in a different school district, which meant the kids went to public school, which, contrary to what Loretta had spent 4 years telling everyone, did not destroy their lives. Sutton, the marine biology kid, ended up in a program at the public middle school that had a partnership with the aquarium downtown. He texts me about jellyfish now. The girls are in a smaller classroom with a teacher I've actually met. They are fine. They are more than fine. They are not being raised anymore to believe their value depends on whose mailbox matches whose. Wren paid back $41,000 over the following 18 months, which was the portion of her debt that was clearly framed as a loan. The rest I forgave in writing, in exchange for an apology I won't repeat here but which she meant. She and I are not close. We may never be, but we are honest with each other now, which is more than we were before. Loretta sold the Colonial. She moved into a 2-bedroom condo in a 55-plus community. She still does not speak to me. I am told by Roman that she tells people I am very ambitious, which in her vocabulary is the worst thing a woman can be. I take it as a compliment. She is paying off her debt to me in monthly installments of $900, which Beatrice negotiated and which I accept, the way you accept rain. Lucinda, of all people, sent me a card the following spring. It said, I should have told her to stop a long time ago. I am sorry I didn't. That card sits in the drawer of my office desk. I take it out sometimes when I forget. Roman and I are good. Better than good. We took a trip to Maine in May. He bought me a pair of earrings for our anniversary with his own money, from his own job, and made a point of mentioning it, which was sweet and a little funny, and exactly what I needed. Sometimes I think about that Tuesday afternoon, the heating pad, the phone call, the way Loretta said the words staff entrance, like she was doing me a kindness. I think about the woman I was right before I picked up that phone, and the woman I was when I put it down. They are not the same person. The woman who picked up the phone had spent 4 years trying to earn a place at a table that was never going to seat her. The woman who put it down had finally noticed she owned the table. I think the lesson, if there is one, is this. There is a difference between being generous and being afraid. Generosity is something you choose because you have something to give and you want to give it. Fear is something you do because you think love has to be bought, because you think your worth is contingent on your usefulness, because you grew up believing that if you stopped being the helpful one, no one would keep you. I was being afraid. I called it generosity for 4 years. Loretta and Ren read me correctly. They knew I was afraid. They knew they could take and take. Because a woman who pays for everything is a woman who is terrified of being left. And that woman will keep paying as long as you let her. The day I canceled those transfers, I wasn't taking anything from them. I was giving something back to myself. The thing I had been spending $240,000 trying to buy from a family that was never going to sell it to me, which was the simple, stupid, obvious feeling of being a person in my own life. The gala happened. I wasn't there. But I have a photograph on my phone that Roman took that night. It's of him and me on our couch, in sweatpants, my Subaru parked in the driveway outside, my house plant on the windowsill, my coffee mug from a gas station in West Virginia. He is laughing. I am laughing. We look like two people who have been let out of something. That picture is my favorite aesthetic. That's the one I'm keeping. I've thought about that Tuesday afternoon more times than I can count. The heating pad, the stitches, the voice on the other end of the line telling me in the gentlest possible tone that I belonged at the staff entrance. And I've come to believe that what happened to Loretta on the night of her gala didn't happen because I was vengeful. It happened because for 4 years, every single decision she and Ren made was built on a foundation that wasn't theirs. You cannot build a life on borrowed scaffolding and then mock the woman holding the boards. Eventually, she sets them down. Eventually, the whole thing comes apart. That isn't cruelty. That's gravity. What I want any woman in my old position to hear is this. Generosity that you give out of fear is not generosity at all. It is rent. You are paying rent on a seat at a table where you are still, somehow, a tenant. I paid $240,000 in rent for 4 years. And when I asked in the smallest way to be treated like family, Loretta showed me the lease was never in my name. The moment I stopped paying, the eviction notice that came was hers, not mine. I think a lot now about the difference between being kind and being useful. Loretta needed me to be useful, and she dressed it up in language that sounded like love because she was clever and because I wanted, badly, to believe her. Ren needed me to be useful, and she signaled her gratitude exactly once a quarter, right before her next mortgage payment was due. I told myself that being useful was a form of kindness. It is not. Kindness is offered freely from a place of strength. Usefulness is extracted, quietly, from a place of fear. The two feel similar from the inside. They look nothing alike from the outside. The harder thing to admit is that my silence helped raise 3 children to believe their family's stability was generated by their grandmother's elegance and their mother's taste, when in fact it came from a Subaru driving aunt they were taught to overlook. By staying quiet, I protected adults at the expense of children. I won't make that mistake again. Sutton knows where his school money came from now. He'll grow up understanding that money is a thing you earn and steward, not a thing that magically appears because you deserve to have your name on a brass plaque. If you are sitting in your living room right now with a heating pad and a phone in your hand and someone has just said something to you that you'll be replaying for weeks, I want you to do one thing before you do anything else. Open a spreadsheet. Look at the actual number. Look at what you have given to the people who feel comfortable telling you where you belong. You don't have to do what I did. But you do have to stop pretending the math isn't the math. The peace I have now didn't come from watching Loretta walk out of Pinehurst. It came from the moment, a few hours earlier, when I tapped cancel and felt nothing break inside me. Nothing. That silence is the sound of a person finally living inside her own life.